I started out kind of, because I had had a little bit of an academic experience with grant writing and grants, I started out kind of thinking about art from that perspective in writing grants. And so my first big projects were all grant funded from nonprofits, or Burning Man, for example, funded a very large piece of mine way back when. So that's kind of how that started for me. And I was a competent writer, so I could write these long proposals. It didn't scare me to do that. As much as I maybe didn't like doing it, I could do it. So I kind of started from that perspective. At the same time, I obviously had a really good design eye, so I was getting hired to do design work, and I did some really successful design projects. I actually designed some restaurants that had become really, really successful. And I was designing some homes and doing some architectural, kind of more traditional architectural stuff that was was successful, and I was actually making good money doing that. And in the middle, I would have these grants that would like fund a new giant laser harp or some new big sculpture. And this kind of slowly meandered along with me doing design work. I even did websites, I would do corporate ID, all of that kind of stuff that us designers do. So, I loved the art stuff, and that started to accumulate. So I got a grant, and then I got another grant, and then there was another grant, and there was a request for a museum show. And so it seems like it started out sort of like one thing a year, and then it was twice a year, and then it started to completely overtake everything I was doing. And it happened really organically, I will be honest. And now I'm just like slammed just artwork, and now we're doing like a big art show every 2 weeks. So it's like, it just seemed like it just started getting getting more and more and more. The business did shift. I don't do grants that often as much, and now the majority of my clients are cities, and that also just really happened organically. It's difficult to really know how to deal, in this, I'm doing large interactive sculpture, and there isn't a path that I can follow. I mean, I've worked with some pretty amazing and famous artists like Klaus Oldenburg, who does huge pop permanent sculptures. He's up there with like Richard Serra. And I spent all this time with him, and even he was like, I don't know, it's like you have to just sort of go with the flow, and you figure it out, and you're like, oh, this city wants this, okay, now this city wants this, and you just sort of, you're just constantly catching up with what people want and trying to kind of figure it out. So for me, it's definitely been that structure. I haven't done a lot of marketing. I have not actually done a lot of like outward requests, and it's just very slowly and organically grown.